Back on the Bernie and Sid show on 77 WABC. Listen, a lot going on out here this morning. That Hamilton actor was on CBS yesterday. Says he's not going to apologize. But there's a big-time liberal Hillary supporter, a very prominent guy who might surprise you, who says that the guy should apologize. We'll tell you who it is. And we have Detective
BC.
When you talk about apology, I think the one that you should really be apologizing for, and the thing that you should be apologizing for, are the 33,000 emails that you deleted and that you acid washed. And then the 2 boxes of emails and other things last week that were taken from an office and are now missing. You get a subpoena, and after getting the subpoena, you delete 33,000 emails, and then you acid wash them, or bleach them, as you would say, a very expensive process. And I'll tell you what, I didn't think I'd say this, but I'm going to say it, and I hate to say it, but if I win, I am going to instruct my Attorney General to get a special prosecutor to look into your situation.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
All right, good memory from one of the debates. In fact, by the way, Donald Trump has decided not to hire a special prosecutor, not to have the Attorney General pursue this. So despite saying that back at the debate and having one of the all-time memorable lines, Donald Trump is not going to go after Hillary Clinton. He wants them to have a chance to heal, kind of move on, says they're not bad people, so he's not going after Hillary, much to the dismay and chagrin of one Bernard McGurk, who wants her in jail today.
Well, that is...
I mean, today.
That you're characterizing it rather harshly. I do think she may have broken the law. And that meeting on the tarmac between Bill Clinton and the Attorney General 4 days before James Comey's announcement is very suspect.
Yes,
and it's very
I agree.
crooked. You talk about a swamp. You're going to clean the swamp. First of all, you got to see. You got to go investigate what the swamp looked like, what happened in the swamp,
sure,
and hold those people accountable. I mean, if I rob a bank just because I don't know, I do something, I break my leg, and
right,
you feel sorry for me, they're still going to charge me with robbing a bank.
Of course.
And so she lost, yes, but still, if you committed a crime, I think the investigation should go forward.
I don't disagree. What you're saying makes complete sense. I just knew that he was going to do whatever he could to win, and once he won, he was going to kind of back off a whole bunch of stuff, and he's done that already, only a couple of weeks in. Hey, we got a special guest in studio, spent a couple of decades as a big-time NYPD guy and detective, and is now retired, but not retired where you're playing golf every single day in West Palm Beach or Boca Raton. But he comes in suit and tie back on the Bernie and Sid show for the second time. Our good friend, Detective Joe Sweeney. Good morning, Joe.
Yeah.
Good morning, fellas. How we doing?
Good.
Doing
how
great.
Are you? Joe, maybe we call you Joe?
Yes, please.
He'd rather you didn't do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, Joe is
Detective. Sir, yes, sir.
Joe was, just so you know, Bernard's going to love this. If I'm wrong, you can correct me, but I think I'm right. I think, Bernard, that Joe and his beautiful wife were at the Jacob Javits Center, election night, ready to celebrate with Hillary.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, rubbing elbows, baby.
My condolences.
How did that go? She never
Well,
showed up.
first, I want to get back to your first point when you started the show. Pretty soon it's going to be, what are we going to build? A fence. Who's going to pay for it? The American people.
So you think Trump is backtracking?
Well, a little bit. You know what I mean? I'm not
A lot of stuff.
And some of it might be good, but you know.
Here's the thing. He can't win.
Yeah,
he can't
I know.
He can't win.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't,
well, he did win.
If he doesn't, but if he doesn't deport all Muslims, you're going to be like, see, I told you he was a liar.
Yeah.
And if he does, you're like, he's a Nazi bastard. This guy.
Yeah. But at least a little bit of a wall.
So
Maybe, something.
You're a detective.
Yes.
I mean, if she broke the law, don't you think, or do you not think that the investigation should go forward? And if she did break the law, she should, or her and her husband should suffer some consequences.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm fond of laws. That's why we have them on the books. So, but I don't. That investigation to me it was politically motivated. I think the intent is what I would look at in some cases that you investigate that's what you focus on is the intent. And there are often times when district attorneys' offices and U.S. attorneys don't prosecute because of what they feel may not have been a malicious act.
I would want you investigating my crimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're the kind of detective I want.
You're fine.
Looking at my stuff.
Let me tell you something.
If he likes you.
Trust me, and you can ask Brian, you can ask anybody I worked with. If you did something, I would figure it out.
Okay, well, they did enrich themselves. They went from zero, from having nothing, leaving the White House broke, to being multimillionaires at this point, all through the Clinton Foundation, a charity, which is rather, suspect at best, at least in my eyes.
Yeah, and I don't know, I don't know the particulars on that stuff, but I think that's one of the biggest issues that plagues them to this day is the fact that when they left the White House, they weren't rich. They didn't have a lot of money. I think it might have maybe forced them to make some errors in judgment on how they live the rest of their life.
They cashed in on his former position and her position as senator and then Secretary of State, and now the donations to the foundation have dropped off a cliff. They're practically non-existent because they have no influence anymore. So if that doesn't speak volumes, I don't know what.
I get it. I mean, and I don't ever begrudge people making money as long as they do it honestly. So I'm not. I don't. That doesn't bother me that they made money. It doesn't bother me that Donald Trump makes money. It's just as long as they do it honestly, and I can't speak to whether it was done honestly.
But obviously he won the election, so there's a large portion of America that does not believe they did it honestly. That's part of the reason why I believe she lost. But just take us back to that night, because there's nobody will admit this. Even the biggest Trump supporter that said that day he's going to win really didn't believe that. I know they didn't believe that. There was no reason to believe he was going to win. So you go to Jacob Javits Center, you're thinking, here comes Hillary. Here comes the big party.
Yeah, me and thousands of other people.
And what happened? What was it like in there?
I'll tell you. So I think, and looking at the news, I think Donald didn't believe he was going to win in the morning. When he went to the polls, he looked like he's
he was walking to a funeral, and she walked in all smiling and
so
happy.
I think the early numbers, and these polls you can't even believe them, because I think the early numbers that even Donald's people were getting showed that he was in trouble. But and everything was fine up until maybe around 10 o'clock.
What time did you get to the Javits Center?
I had to get there early, so we probably got there maybe like 7 o'clock.
About 7 o'clock. Yeah. So at that point, we hadn't heard yet that she was trailing in every state across the country.
Yeah, no, it was still everything was
so
great.
So people were like in a good mood. At what time would you say did the folks in there go? Way before Podesta spoke, did you guys go, oh, my God, there's going to be a party here tonight?
I was in a very small room with, not a small room, but a very limited access room with all the, A-list celebs. So it was, everybody was kind of focused on the result. I would say, and I'm not exactly sure, I wasn't watching the clock, right. But maybe like 10 o'clock, things started to be like, wow.
Well, first was North Carolina.
Yeah. By 11, people were crying.
When they called Florida, 11 o'clock is when they called Florida for Trump. Oh, at that point, it was... it went from the club to the waiting room.
And I've seen some of these people cry, but on film, not in real life.
And so then the night goes on, and you're like,
God.
Okay, well, she's going to come here and she's going to give a concession speech at the very least.
Yeah.
I mean, we're her supporters. So we'll just sit here and wait for her to come and show her the proper respect, and then Podesta comes. And how was the feeling at that point?
By then, and where he went, I wasn't. That was in the main room, and I probably wasn't there when I was walking out. I left about, I would say, a little before 2, and I think he came on at 2. But it was. I mean, we knew it was over. But you're right. I think she probably should have come by. I think it was a little. I mean, maybe they were holding out hope.
No, she was hysterical. She couldn't. She couldn't. According to what we've heard, she wasn't able to contain herself. She was hysterical.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've heard that too. I'm not sure that that's accurate. I don't blame her if she was hysterical. I'm sure.
Either way, if she was hysterical, then she didn't have the temperament to be president. And B, if she was not hysterical, then she didn't have the class to show up and give a concession speech and address her supporters.
Yeah, and
not to be vindictive after she got beaten.
No, but the hysterical part, I find a little, maybe suspect because she's been through a million different things. I can't imagine that this would.
But this
would
one
put
hurt.
her.
No, this
sure
one she had this one. She was convinced up until 8 o'clock
They had
that night.
fireworks scheduled to go off on the Hudson.
She even admitted the next day that this one hurt more than anything else she'd ever experienced. So this one, these were different circumstances.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Did you cry? Did you cry?
Listen. I had I was the only guy walking out of there a winner because I had J-Lo and Gaga and Katy Perry. All three of them independent went up to my wife and told her how beautiful she was.
Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
So I
bottom
won.
line, Joe Sweeney was a winner, right?
That's right.
The hell with the country and Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
No. Hey, listen, Joe. Listen, it's a pleasure. Detective Joe Sweeney, great to have you. Former detective for years and years. A friend of my good friend, former detective Brian Costello.
Yep.
Another hero, a 9/11 hero, as yourself, from way back. Anyway, I want to ask you this question. There's also this. New York Post reporting that the fire department, New York City Fire Department, has hired 9 ex-felons for diversity's sake.
Yep.
And the fact, that's true. That is true. And the NYPD may follow suit. Ugh. Is this by your reaction? I'm gauging that no, it's not a good idea.
Yeah, and you see some of that where there are some things that you want to give people a second chance. I totally get it, and there are times where growing up in the city, I think it's hard for some kids to not get in trouble at some point.
I did.
Exactly. So so I get some of that, and I suppose it depends on what it is, but to get a felony conviction in New York City is you did something pretty bad.
Right.
Most of the stuff gets plea bargained.
I was just going to say I copped to. It was a youthful offender status.
Yeah, exactly. So we have to have, and it's not that people can't change, but you have to have some kind of bar that you're going to set. And I think we went through this stuff. Not we, but in the 60s they kind of went through a very similar thing, which ended up in the Knapp Commission because guys who they couldn't get anybody to take the job,
right.
And they hired guys with less than good background checks,
like criminals, basically.
And they ended up fulfilling their obligation to their past, and that's what we ended up with, and I worry about those kinds of things.
Well, listen to one of the 9. Excuse me. He served more than a year in the Nassau County Correctional Center after 2005 convictions for carrying loaded guns.
Yeah.
He's going to be a fireman.
Well,
hey, and listen, here's the thing, too, and my friend Brian tells me, the cops hate the firemen. There's the backstory that you guys don't want to really talk about, I guess.
Well, I can't say that because...
But it is true.
No, but it's kind of like lesbians hate gays.
Yeah.
Cops and firemen hate each other.
But I can't say it out loud because my whole family is firemen.
Right.
I'm the only cop.
Right.
So a couple of them dabbled in police work early on, but they all migrated to the fire department.
They hate them.
It's a macho thing. It's like I'm the real man. You carry 100 pounds on your back up the stairs.
Yeah.
Not only that. The low life thieves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thieves.
Right.
Low life thieves who sleep half the time.
Right.
Well, listen.
That's what the cops say, but the firemen they're the guys who ran up the 9/11.
Absolutely.
Right. So cops did too.
We're like family. It's like a sibling rivalry.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's I hope they look at this hard and some of the things I see in the hiring practices. I understand that there are people out there who are struggling because of mistakes they made.
Sure.
But
got to be a different job, basically.
Yeah.
Detective Joe Sweeney.
Do something else.
Right, with Meridian City. So Thursday, of course, is our favorite holiday. It's Thanksgiving. Nobody does Thanksgiving better than our city. To me, that day really shows why New York is the greatest city in the world. From the parade, right, to Santa coming out at the end. Now, all we keep hearing the last couple of days is that ISIS, they've been talking about doing something at that parade forever. But now, in their latest magazine, they've come out and said, hey, remember what happened in Nice in July when the guy drove his truck through all those people at the fireworks for July 4th? Let's do that on Thanksgiving. So the New York police is saying, hey, listen, we get these threats every single year. They may change up the method, but we are prepared. We get these every single year. You work that detail, so you tell me about Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, it's troubling, and I think without these specific threats, it would still be troubling. I mean, there's a lot of, crowds draw these kinds of things because it's going to be on TV, and any of these, sort of events are magnets for this kind of thing. They just arrested a guy who was at least talking about doing that kind of thing, and you know, you just.
But actually carrying it off. I mean, everything is so kind of boxed in. There's police everywhere. Actually carrying off something like that.
That's not by accident, and I can tell you one thing: the NYPD is the best at this. I mean, they really are the best at it. They deal with it all the time. And if somebody tries something, they'll be ready for it. And hopefully that doesn't happen. And hopefully, you know, a lot of the stuff with the intelligence that they have going on is they're not just being reactive; they're being proactive and going after these guys. So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that you don't even know about.
Right.
They have, you know, people in other countries. They're really
You know how I know that? You know how I know that? Because I'll hear Ray Kelly or even Bratton before he left say, "We thwarted 36 different attempts." I heard of one, the guy in Times Square.
Yeah.
What other 35 are you talking about?
There was another one. A guy was just arrested today.
Today, right.
Today.
But I'm saying there's always like 30 more than you hear about, which is exactly what you're talking about.
Right,
and the guy today was very, you know, they don't even know if he had made any overt plans but they have him talking about it on a wiretap, and they have him traveling to some of these countries, which to me if you look at some of the last terrorist acts, even the homegrown people have traveled outside this country and then come back, you know, and that's when it's happened.
How about Mayor de Blasio's suggestion that for the Thanksgiving Day parade, for diversity's sake, we have an ISIS float? I mean,
You're funny.
Is that going too far in your opinion,
That's
Detective
true,
Sweeney?
That happens to be true.
Is it true?
Yeah, Baghdadi's going to be the
By the
Grand
way,
Marshal.
well, de Blasio missed the damn
Maybe
parade.
Italian ISIS we could have. That would be all right.
De Blasio will sleep till 1 o'clock in the afternoon and miss the whole damn thing. Unless there's a terror attack, somebody will call him and say, you got to get over here.
He can come out as Santa. He's fat enough. It'd be great at the very end of the parade if it was actually Bill de Blasio in the Santa outfit. How about that?
What a slob. That's funny. Hey, Detective Sweeney, we are out of time.
Oh, boy.
You were great again.
But once again, spoke at the Democratic National Convention, was at the Jacob Javits Center that night.
With Katy Perry and Jennifer Lopez.
I've been swapping spit. No, with his wife, while they were there. And anyway, Detective Sweeney, thank you for appearing on the Bernie and Sid Show once again. Always
Thanks,
a pleasure.
guys.
Good job.
Good to
Happy
see you,
Thanksgiving,
Joe.
by the
Thanks,
way.
man. Same to you. Back after this.